Good afternoon, dear colleagues.
Good afternoon.
Speaking is Elina, a grade 1 teacher at Ochovaneche Primary School. I am a final year student at the University of Namibia. I'm going to present to you the knowledge that I acquired in the numeracy and learning support module. You are advised to take note and ask questions by the time I finish this presentation. Learning support itself. Learning support involves planned methods that enable learners with learning difficulties and other special needs to reach the basic competence. It is a way to ensure that all learners are able to make progress and achieve according to their potential. The learning support includes the following steps. Step 1. The teacher observes or identifies the child's struggling and wants to give support as soon as possible. And the child is reading and spelling words correctly. Step number 2. The teacher has to diagnose what the problem is exactly. Always test the sense of seeing and hearing first. For example, the child can hear and see well, but the child is confused between the B and the D. Step number 3. The teacher takes action. Plan activities to help the child differentiate between B and D. So you have to start out with the teacher using strong supportive guidance or instruction known as explicit instruction. Then slowly begin to the learner acquire the skill moving towards the goal of the learner. Step 4. The child has to do the activities to overcome the mix-up. Step 5. The teacher evaluates or assesses if the child has overcome the problem. If not, the teacher goes back to repeat steps 3, 4, and 5. Okay, differentiated instructions. We can adapt content, process, product, and environment. Content. How can the content be adapted to suit different needs? Focus on the key concept to be mastered. Pre-assess and decide on the needs groups of learners have regarding the content. Use different entry points. Use varied text and resource materials. Make learning contracts with learners that they will learn both skill and contents and map out the part of the process. Reteach mini lessons to learners who miss the key concepts. Bring in various support systems like the cameras, the type records, graphic organizers, peer and adult mentors. Process. What opportunity can learner get to master the content or key concepts? Learners who engage in learning experiences that have a variety of modes, ways of doing things. Varying degrees of difficulty to choose from different time spans to complete the task. They get multiple options that help them make sense of what they need to learn. There will be varied teacher or peer support. The process will require the use of essential skill or information to master the content. Product. What product or demonstration will show that learning took place? Decide what knowledge, understanding, and skills are the key concepts of the content. Then decide on different but appropriate formats and the quality you require. Explain clearly to show examples. Possible example of products: write a book, a poem, make a collection, read to a tape record, create a subject dictionary, produce a play, create a poster, or think or take 2 pages. Bloom's taxonomy. Mr. Bloom analyzed thinking levels and came up with 6 levels of thinking which demand little or complex thinking skills by the teacher asking questions and giving tasks that require different levels of thinking. The levels are as follows. Remembering. Remembering means retrieving, recognizing, and recalling the relevant knowledge from long-term memory. Understanding. constructing the meaning from oral, written, and graphic messages through interpreting, exemplifying, classifying, summarizing, inferring, comparing, and explaining. Applying, carrying out a procedure through executing or implementing. Analyzing, breaking material into constituent parts, determining how the parts relate to one another, and an overall structure or purpose through differentiating, organizing, and attributing. Then evaluating, making judgments based on criteria and standards through checking and criticizing. Okay, then the fifth one is we have the tic-tac-toe strategy. Create a 3x3 block and fill in the required activities for each block. Learners choose the 3 activities, either going straight, across, straight down, or diagonally in a straight line. The set of available choices should include a variety of activities types and the basic competences of the specific syllabus. Make sure that whichever direction a child chooses, there will be a different levels of expectations. Each learner can choose what he or she wants to do from the tic-tac-toe chart by choosing 3 activities, either going across, down, or diagonal. The set of available choices should include a variety of activities, types, and the basic competences of the specific syllabus. Thus, a learner will show what knowledge was gained regarding the topic. The CRA, the concrete representational abstract. Instructional strategy makes use of the effective components of both behaviorist and constructivist practices. With this strategy, the teacher may use direct instruction through demonstration, modeling, guided practice followed by independent practice and immediate feedback. Discovery learning happens when the learners have to carry what was taught. CRA is a sequential 3-level strategy which promotes overall conceptual understanding and successfully applying what was taught because the teacher is using a multisensory instructional technique when introducing the new concepts. Learners with mathematical difficulties generally need explicit guidance and support. That is why this strategy is especially effective when used to teach struggling learners or when teaching a new topic to the class. During the concrete stage of instruction, manipulatives are used to support understanding of the new concept. The use of manipulative increases the number of sensory inputs a learner uses while learning the new concept, which improves the chances for a learner to remember the concept and what to do or to solve. VAKT. VKAT method can be used for learners with various reading challenges. VA stands for the visual, auditory, kinesthetic, and the tactile. The child needs to see the world. They say the word, trace the word, and feel the throat and movement of muscles while they say and write the word. The teacher sits slightly behind the child and both read together. The child hears the adult reading while one person points at the word. The teacher can change loudness of the voice. Then we have the early identification and intervention. Early diagnosis not only improves the child's ability to reach their academic potential, but also prevents the development of low self-esteem and behavior problems that further interfere with the ability to learn. With early diagnosis, the potential to develop the skills, they need to have a moral, successful life as an adult that can be greatly strengthened. And assistive technologies. Dear colleagues, assistive technologies usually include devices that people with disability can use to help them communicate, learn, travel, do household chores, care for themselves, and have fun. The following are the assistive technology that can be used. Technological aids for hearing impairment. There are many technological aids available to assist persons with hearing impairment. These include alert devices such as clock alarm, vibrators, flashlights, hearing aids such as amplifying instrument, computer-aided instruction and educational interpreter, just to name few. Technological aids for visual impairment. Aids used for visual impairment has grown and following options are available: Pecklins, Braille note takers, and Braille keyboarding. Individual education plan. An IEP is a written plan describing the special needs to education program and services required by particular learner. It identifies learning expectations that are modified from an alternative to the expectation given in the curriculum policy, document for the appropriate grade and subject or course, and accommodations and the special education needs services needed to assist the learner in achieving his or her learning expectations. The IEPs of learners who have no modified or alternative expectations will focus only on accommodations and services. Dear colleagues, the IEP involves the following stages. Identification. Before an IEP is written for a child with specific educational learning needs or disability, the school must first determine whether the child qualifies for special needs education services. To qualify, the child's special educational learning needs and disability must have an adverse effect on the child's educational progress. Merely having a specific educational learning needs and disability is not sufficient for eligibility. Evaluation. To determine eligibility, the school must conduct a full evaluation of the child in all areas of suspected specific educational learning needs or disability. Based in part of the results of the evaluation, the school, along with the parents, meet to review the results and the child's current level of performance and to determine whether special needs education service is needed. So the team produced a comprehensive evaluation report. Developing the IEP. After the child is determined to be eligible for special needs education service, the IEP team must develop an individual education plan to be implemented as soon as possible after eligibility is determined. So the team make decision using the results of the full individual evaluation the IEP team makes together to identify the child's present level of education performance, the child's specific academic and any related or special needs services that the child needs in order to benefit from the intervention. Then placement. After the IEP is developed, the IEP team determines placement, that is the environment in which the child's IEP can most readily be implemented. The idea requires that the IPE be complete before placement decisions are made so that the child's educational needs drive the IEP development process. Schools may not develop the child's IPEs to fit into a pre-existing program for a particular classification of disability. The IPE is written to fit the student. The placement is chosen to fit the IEP. Implementation. After the IEP is developed and placement is determined, the child's teacher are responsible for implementing all educational services, programs, modifications, or supports as indicated by individual education plan. Annual review. The IEP team conducting an annual review to ensure that the learner is meeting goals and or making progress on the benchmarks specified for each objective. So thank you very much, colleagues, for listening to my presentation. So is there any question?
Yes, there's a question. I would like you to go back to the learning support and kindly just clarify on what is learning support itself.
All right, thank you. Learning support is a way to ensure that all learners are able to progress and achieve according to their potential. So it involves brain methods that enable learners with learning difficulties and other special needs to reach the basic competencies.
All right, and I spotted out again the second one. At the Bloom's taxonomy, the levels of thinking. I think you need to explain more on what is remembering.
Okay, so remembering is when the learner is able to retrieve, recognize, and recalling all the relevant information from the long-term memory.
So, yes, Mr. Pani.
Yes, sir.
I do have a question. Just to give us, now, what will a teacher do if he or she identified the child problem in learning, offered support but no change in that learner?
Okay, thank you. So the teacher needs to diagnose what the problem is exactly. So the teacher needs to know maybe the child has seeing problems. Maybe she cannot see the letters well on the chalkboard. So the teacher need to know exactly what the problem of the learner is, or maybe the learner might be confused between the letters, especially letter B and D. It's mostly gives confusion in learners. So the teacher need really to diagnose of what really the problem is within that learner. Thank you.
And another one, whereby you talk of VAKT. So please, what does that mean? And at least explain a bit.
Okay, thank you. Okay, VAK is an abbreviation which means visual, auditory, kinesthetic, tactile. So the child needs to see the world, say the world, trace the world, and feel the throat and movement of muscles while they say and write the word. So the teacher sits slightly behind the child and the lead together. So the child hears the teacher reading while she's pointing at the word, and the teacher can repeat the loudness of the voice. Maybe the learner cannot get it well. Do you still have any other question?
No, there's no any other question.
Okay, that's the end of our presentation, and I thank you very much for your attention. and for the time that you took just to listen.